we're making a sustainable Leek Galette. That's what's happening. With all sustainable ingredients. Here we are, the guest team, so many of us, and we're making it all in live action time, which is very exciting. So as Janina said, stage 1 is rubbing in the butter to the flour. So we will have a nice pastry. So where Laura's just put her pastry into the fridge, and she's walking around her kitchen. Janina, how are you doing? I've rubbed mine in a little bit and I've mixed in the dill, and I'm about to add a spoon of water.
Yes, I am at the same stage as you.
Make the white sauce.
Yes, the white sauce next. Janina, I am going to ask you some questions about food waste. And how does this compare to like what you usually cook? Do you tend to try and incorporate like a less waste, kind of like sustainable cooking all the time? Like what sort of thing do you like to make? What is your cooking preference?
How do I cook? I have loads of recipe books that they're all here. You can see there on that shelf. I cook a lot, and I'm really interested in cooking and cooking new things. So when I would cook out, like maybe at the start of the week, I would go through a recipe book of hers and find a couple of recipes which share ingredients but do different things with them, and then use different bits of them. Like if you buy broccoli and use the tops for like a stir fry or something, then you use the stalks maybe like in a soup, because you and really nutritious and have a lot of fiber. So if you make a soup out of them, you won't even know they're the stalks, but they're super yummy and like you're not wasting any part of the vegetable. So those are the kinds of things I like to do. They actually are maybe even worse than the plastic ones in ways, because the plastic ones are getting recycled to a certain extent, but unless you're taking them to the Tetra, recycle point, but I don't think many people are or even know this. But cream is something that's extremely difficult to buy like sustainably without the packaging. And also vegan cream, like they just always come in plastic. And I think I was reading about it, there's like one place in Australia that does cream in like a glass jar. And I feel like going to Australia to get cream is not very sustainable. So
yeah, probably not.
Very
sucks.
This is just a massive problem that Scotland has. In Spain, we can recycle Tetra Paks. So
yeah. So this is my beeswax cloth type thing, which I use instead of cling film.
Nice.
So putting that in the.
Where did you get that?
I got it. I think I got it in a shop when the shops were still open. And I think I also got it for my housemate for her birthday, but yeah.
Some of them on Etsy, and they're not like, some of them on Etsy are not very expensive. I find that in some shops, like they can be quite abusive, the prices.
Yeah.
But I got a few in Etsy for like a pack of 5 for like £15 or something like that.
Yeah, these weren't that much. These were like maybe 7 or 8, and like considering that they last you like cling film many times over, I think it's okay.
I think the Beekeeping Society used to do like workshops on how to make them yourself with like old cloth, and then I think it's super cool that you can just make them from scratch.
Because it's technically just like a cloth with beeswax on either side, so like yeah. So many of these things can be made at home, but it's just kind of daunting. It's like, where the hell do I get beeswax? And like, where would I even do it? Like, where's the space to make a beeswax cloth in my house? So I should make the bechamel.
Okay, so for the bechamel, as we're talking about it, I'm heating 3 tablespoons of oil in a pan. to be the counterpart to our 2 tablespoons of flour, which when I was reading about this, it's actually quite interesting that, like, say if you wanted to make more bechamel, because you always just want it to be, your kitchen is lovely, Janaina. Oh my gosh. Look at that. Look at that corner of the kitchen. So nice. Lovely. So good. Basically, the key with bechamel is you always use 1 more tablespoon of oil than you're using of flour, but you can, within that, customize it like how much you want, which is quite cool. So I think my oil's
Perfect.
so I'm
Now we're going to do oil and how much? What did you say? 3 of oil, 2 of flour.
3 of oil, 2 of flour. So I'm just about to add my 2 of flour now. So my kind of logic in going for bechamel was I wanted like something that would add like some creaminess to the tart, but without having to buy like vegan cream or cream in a package. Just because it's not that difficult to really make bechamel, but it's like cuts and corners, and also can be made with things that you probably already have in your cupboard, so it's cheaper than like buying cream or something like that.
I was actually looking for ways to buy cream because milk is still doable. Like, I mean, Tetra Packs aren't great for the environment, and a lot of people, they actually cannot be recycled in the general recycling. They have to go to their special like Tetra recycling, which a lot of people don't know. So, what type of oil are you using?
Okay, so I am using olive, and the reason I'm using olive oil is because it is what I already have, and my flatmates are from Cyprus, and olive oil is like their oil of choice. They love it, like that's what they want. Perfect, fine with me. I like it too. But then, like for example, like my personal favorite celebrity chef, Mira Soda, she advocates using rapeseed oil because it's the one that we like have like a great abundance of in the UK. And like if you're cooking with it, like perfect. Fine.
What are you
straight
up vegetable oil? And unfortunately, it comes in this plastic
Yeah, mine
bottle,
which I also have a plastic bottle.
I have this cold extraction extra virgin olive oil. Especially it's French. I'm using olive oil. I think it's terrible to use anything else that is not olive oil.
Yeah, I guess when it's something, I guess that's the perk if you've got like multiple oils in your house. You can like make a choice, right, and be like, okay, am I going to use my nicer oil, or not? But currently, all I have is the co-op olive oil. But usually, I do try and like places like KRK, if anyone knows, on Woodlands Road, like they have blast.
Represent KRK, best place ever.
I used to literally live like above it, just like diagonally from KRK. It was so good.
Yeah. And they have so much stuff which is just like open, you know, it's not in plastic. They also have a lot of plastic, like all their spices are in plastic, but their veggies are not, so. Their veggies, their meat, none of their, yeah.
And also, I don't know, what do we think? Is it more sustainable to buy like a thing of something like spices in a plastic bag, or to get a kind of like a glass jar? Is it the glass jar better because you can recycle it, or does it take more energy to produce that?
I think like initially glass jar is nice because you can also like reuse it and stuff. But then like if you go to, I mean, if you can get like if you can go to a refill shop and get spices like from Lukavor or something, and you can refill the jars, you can bring your jars. But if you don't have that option, it's better to buy one of these like bigger like bags of spices from like Middle Eastern shops and stuff. So even though it comes in plastic, you do get quite a lot of spices, so it's not as bad because the bag is quite big and you can perhaps share it with friends or something.
I would just for the record, I would like to show you all my bag of cumin because
Please, can you send me some? Because I literally like,
Exactly.
oh, so good. That's what I need in my life. I'm out of cumin. And I took my little box to the shop today, to the refill store, and they didn't have any cumin. So,
Nana, I will meet you in the park and I will give you some cumin because I don't know when we can do a socially distanced cumin exchange. I don't know when I'm gonna finish it.
sorry. I barely have any new. And I make so much like Bangladeshi food that has so much cumin in it. So
cumin is my favorite.
So I didn't start adding the milk like slowly, so I'm trying to get rid of the clumps.
that's literally where I am right now. I just have like islands of dough in my milk. I think a whisk is a good idea at this point, no?
That's what I'm using.
Very nice.
Okay, I also should get one.
I also currently, so what was it, 480 mils of milk? I didn't add mine slowly, I just added it all in, but it seems to be going okay.
Yeah. So I have coconut milk left from I don't even know where, so I'm gonna add this. I hope you guys don't mind.
You're the one who be eating this, so do it. Go ahead.
And my housemates are gonna have this for dinner, so.
Yeah, same. Okay, so that's another point in terms of making food and making the most of it and not kind of wasting any of it. That if you have flatmates or you live with your family, just make them eat it. That's an easy solution.
Yeah, I do all the time. And my mom would be like, I'm not your garbage can. I'm like, Mom, but it's going to waste. And then she'd be like she would say something like, it's better in the garbage can than in my stomach. I'm like, no, it's not. That doesn't make sense. Even as a baby, I was like, no, waste reduction, mother.
I feel like there's a lot to unpack there. Like there's the waste reduction, there's like a bit of diet culture sprinkled in there maybe, like it's better in the bin than in my tummy. Food is always better in your tummy. That is what it is designed for. I'm holding my belly. That's what we liked. Food is delicious.
It's a really lovely community moment as well. I don't know. It's really nice when you cook with people around you, especially like, I mean, it's a pandemic. We're at home. One of the good things we can do, apart from like watching Netflix together, is like just cook for each other. It's like a nice sign of care as well.
Yeah, for sure. We were actually talking about that the other night in my flat because like all my flatmates are really into cooking. We all really like it, but there is maybe like one of my flatmates brought up that perhaps there's a, like she was saying from her point of view, she's maybe gained a little bit of like happy weight just because like we're eating the most delicious, wonderful food. But of course, our only conclusion was, I mean, one, nothing wrong with gaining weight. I will be the first person to say it, like, of course. Especially if that food you are eating is food that you're enjoying with people in a really hard time where there isn't that much else kind of going on to be happy about. So for sure. I agree with you 100%. How's it going, Janina? I just saw you take a taste of something. What did you have?
I tried the milk, which has somewhat of the flour in it. I'm looking for a whisk. I can't find one because I need to get it to completely dissolve. I don't even know if we own a whisk. Oh, it's not.
So I think my bechamel is getting there. I've never made bechamel before, but I've seen my mom make it. So I think this kind of consistency is, let's see. So right now it's like a bit lumpy, not lumpy, like a bit thick.
That looks really good to me, and also I think it'll thicken once you've taken it off the heat as well.
Right.
So it does. Do the leeks go in this milk?
No. So what we'll do later, we're gonna add at the later point of the recipe, we're gonna fry off the leeks and the onions, and then we'll kind of combine them when it comes to making the galette itself. So for now, we're keeping them separate.
This needs to be much thicker. I have added way too much.
Right, so I'm going to remove this from the heat, and then I'm going to start making the leeks and the onions.
Okay, with the leeks, I'm also, Janaina, like if your sauce, my bechamel is like pretty thick right now as well, so I think I'm just gonna go ahead and start on the leeks while I'm waiting.
Mine is not at all. Oh, so should I add that mustard to it? Because I have mustard powder.
You can add the mustard to the bechamel, or if you want, you can wait and add it to the leek mixture, whatever you prefer.
I might use bechamel because that's what I do when I make macaroni and cheese. So.
I mean, it will definitely thicken up. Like mine was really liquid at first, but also soy milk has quite a lot of fat, so I don't really know how it's going to go with the coconut. Coconut is quite watery.
I've added a teeny pinch of nutmeg to the bechamel.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
Rogue. I have no idea what's happening next or like what the stages are because I'm fully immersed in this conversation here. So
good. Okay, good. That's what I like to hear. That's what I like to hear. So what I'm going to do is start on the leeks because I'm waiting for my bechamel to thicken up a little bit. So first of all, I've added some oil to a frying pan, and I'm now going to add my onions. Yeah, it seems to be pretty. I'm going to add an onion and 4 cloves of garlic. But Janaina, as you know, you're doing like however many cloves of garlic you personally wish.
I just stick to my bechamel because there were too many lumps, so I just sipped it. Now it's looking good. But I just added too much salt. Oh, tip about salt, food tip. If you add too much salt to something, especially if it's like a gravy, like if there's sauce, then add a cleaned copper coin. So like the 1 p's or 2 p's. And apparently it, like, I don't know the science, it doesn't make sense in my head, but you add that to salty things and it just sucks up the excess salt.
That sounds awkward. And also, I really hope people wash it very well.
Yeah, same. Like,
I would actually just not do it.
sanitize it like crazy. I don't even know. Ew, that sounds bad as well.
No, like, nah. I don't,
Yeah.
like, even if I bleach it before putting it into the food, I'm like, I don't trust it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. That's why I would never do it. But I have seen it and I've heard it. So if it comes to between like throwing away an entire stew that you've made because it's too salty and putting in a copper coin, I might, because like that much waste just kills me.
You know, that's one of the worst things, is knowing what to do when you make something that's actually gross. Like the other day, basically I have this porridge, these oats that I left in my cupboard, and somehow they absorbed the flavors of the cupboard. And they taste like kind of mildly spicy, but like just an amalgamation. So I keep experimenting with all these things that I can do to my oats to make them a bit more palatable. And I tried to lean into the spiciness and add more spices, but I added way too much nutmeg. And it was truly the most bitter, horrible thing that I've ever made. This was yesterday, so I'm still reeling.
Okay.
And I had to put it in the bin because I genuinely could not eat it, and I felt so ashamed. It was terrible.
Sometimes it's a lost cause, you know, and then it's like there's basically nothing you can do. Like no one will eat that. So in those cases, like you should forgive yourself. But there are ways to salvage, of course, in other circumstances, like the salt thing, or like if you add too much like citrus, then you counteract it with a bit of sugar or something like that. So I remember this time in my first year, I went to Sussex Uni before this. So me and my friend, we were cooking, and it was like 4 in the morning, and we were cooking in the kitchen, in my flat kitchen, like in Ball's residence, and we made this like disgusting thing where the potatoes wouldn't cook. Like we were so dumb and we didn't know how to cook anything. We didn't even know that you had to pre-cook potatoes. We would just put like potatoes and and like canned tomatoes and random things in a pan, and it wouldn't cook, and we were sitting over it for 4 hours trying to cook potatoes, and it tasted so terrible, but we didn't want to throw stuff away. We were like, what do we do? And there were these boys who came home from a night out. It was like 5 a.m. They came back from a night out, and they were so plastered. They didn't even know like what they were eating. So we were like, you guys want food? They were like, you're just gonna give us food? We're like, yeah, of course, there's food. And they enjoyed it so much, and it was inedible. It was disgusting, but they ate it, and that was like one of my most triumphant anti-food waste stories, where I fed them absolute garbage and they ate it, and the next day they were like, thank you, you're so sweet. We were like, yeah.
That's such a win-win. Like, you get rid of food waste and like you make new friends.
Exactly. My friend actually slept with him later. It was great.
Nice. Like laying the groundwork.
Yeah.
So good. Okay, so I'm gonna add the leeks now. I see everyone else is already adding leeks, but
Leeks are having names.
Very good. I just procrastinate the leeks because I want the onions to be as like cooked as possible. But now the leek is an interesting vegetable because I feel like it divides opinion in that like there's obviously the white bit of the leek and then there's the green kind of like tougher bit, which is interesting from a food waste perspective. How much have you guys opted to use of your leeks?
About half of the green part.
Yes. See, Laura, I'm on a similar page to you, Laura. I haven't used the entirety, but I have used a decent amount.
Right now.
Well, that's good.
I've used all of it, but maybe like I got it from, do you know Ashby's, the organic store?
I don't.
It's this really tiny fruit and veg store near my house. And I've never actually been there before. Today's the first day. But they like everything, all the fruit and veg they have is loose, and they have, refills of stuff. So I think it's organic, and it was like, you know how some of it looks sometimes from the supermarket, like half of it looks inedible and like really dry, but this was good.
I was reading something that said that it was talking about kind of organic production versus kind of mainstream production, and kind of what's better for the environment, because there's so many different toss-ups between, for example, like I think maybe the CO2 emissions of organic things is, or like I know for sure organic meat either like has the same kind of CO2 output or more than just like mainstream meat, but obviously organic meat production would be far more like ethical in terms of its treatment of animals. So it's an interesting toss-up, but then I think another key factor is like soil quality and health, and like how kind of organic food is grown, because it might be much better for the soil, because it's less degrading if it's like harsh, intensive things that are all built. So interesting, much to consider, kind of like the pros and cons of both.
Right, so I have my
done-ish. What should I do? Should I add it to the bechamel?
Okay, so it depends how you want to do it. So if your bechamel is thick enough, I would say add it to the pan, or kind of you can choose to dollop it or kind of spread it around on top once you've rolled out your pastry. There are several options, just depending. Like Laura, your thickness of bechamel looks really good. So if you want to kind of mix it in with your leeks and dollop it, that I'm sure would work.
Here's mine.
Yeah, it looks so good.
Oh, brilliant.
It looks tasty.
My pastry though is really, really flaky. Like it's really coming apart.
Okay.
So I don't know how I'm gonna roll this. Otherwise, I have a dish, so I can always try and put it there.
Toss it in. Okay.
A different kind of thing.
Yeah, all you're aiming for with the galette, if it is really flaky, the only issue might be that with the galette at some point, the aim is to fold the edges in. So if it's really flaky, maybe it's going to be difficult to fold the edges.
Yeah.
So I'm so bad at pastry and all things baking. How am I supposed to roll it? Like, what's the sit?
Okay, so I will perhaps move on to this part now. My leeks are still cooking. You're now going to get the alternative view of my kitchen. That's where I was standing before. Like I have one of these with all the different circles, but really you're aiming to get it just to be kind of a kind of like 30-centimeter circle. So kind of like that big. Just roll it out kind of however kind of big.
So should it not be square or like rectangular if you're gonna roll it out, if you're gonna fold it?
Well, see that with a traditional galette, you do it into a circle and then you kind of fold each edge as you go, and it creates kind of this nice pattern. But we'll get to that and you will see what I mean. But yeah, for now, trust me if you will and make the circle.
Cool. So I should make a 30-centimeter circle, you're saying?
Yes.
This rolling pin is another secondhand purchase. It's from a international student who was leaving, and she was just like selling random things on Facebook. So it was like 50p or something.
Do you have any tips for people that are looking to kind of expand their kitchen collection and buy things secondhand? Like, where do you think are the best places to shop?
So if there's something specific they need, looking on Gumtree or Facebook Marketplace is always a great place. And honestly, like either I'm too lazy because it's really cold, or genuinely like it's really far. So I often just like ask people if they would be happy to deliver. And so many people like have a car and are going to work every day or whatever, and are super happy to just drop it at your house. So I hear from a lot of people like, oh, it's so far, I can't go. But just ask. And like people will often drop it off or meet you halfway or something. So Gumtree and Facebook Marketplace are great. Then in the summer, every year, like in July, August, September, August especially, when students are leaving and they're going back to their home country, they just have so much stuff to get rid of that people like will either give it to you for free. So those kind of times are great to look out for. And what else? Charity shops have so much stuff. Of course, that's not an option right now, but yeah, charity shops are great. Everything can almost be found secondhand. eBay is pretty good. Like I needed at Christmas time, I needed a, what do you call it? One of those drink, like cocktail shakers. And I just found one on eBay secondhand, and someone just sent it to me.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of eBay. In fact, this is not like sustainable consumption, but my fridge magnet collection is pretty much entirely eBay sourced and funded. So that has been like truly demonstrated my love for eBay.
Is this a hobby, or you collected on a certain topic? What's the scene?
So I used to get ones for like every place that I visited, but now like me and my flatmates just have made it our mission to buy like the ugliest fridge magnets each time. Okay, so this is currently, I have rolled my pastry out to like this kind of size, a big round. But while we're talking about pastry, or while we're enacting the pastry situation, I want to ask you about kind of like food sustainability in the UK versus in Bangladesh, where you're from. Like you said, since you've been young, like you've been really into preventing food waste. Do you find it's easier when you're in Glasgow or when you're in Bangladesh?
So traditionally, thing with Bangladeshi cooking is that and this is very like very specific to and Bangladeshi or Bengali cooking. So Bangladesh is the country, Bengal is the larger region of which Bangladesh is a part and was like a part politically as well. So Bengal then divided into East and West Bengal. East Bengal became Bangladesh, and West Bengal continues to be a state in India. So ethnically, linguistically, culturally, we're very similar. But we are now our own country, and they're a region of India. So anyway, Bengali cooking is famous for like for using up every last thing. So, and also making it delicious. So like we have preparations of dishes which use the peels of vegetables. So like peels of different kinds of like, I'm thinking of the names in Bengali, of different kinds of pumpkins, for example. So we have about like, 10 different kinds of pumpkins. So you take the peels from those and they'd be different colors, different textures, different sweetnesses, and you'd fry that with a bit of spices, a bit of onion, and it'd be this really lovely bhaji, which is like a vegetable kind of stir fry. So like it's totally normal to have a peel stir fry. Like no one will think that you're just using up food waste. It's literally like a recipe that could be in a recipe book. Then we have stuff that we do with the seeds. Like for example, we eat a lot of jackfruit and it's our national fruit. But a delicacy is like to have a preparation of jackfruit seeds, which you then burn in the fire, and it gets this really nutty flavor. And then you mix it with like mustard oil and onions and garlic and stuff. So it's really like, it's not something we talk about. It's just something that's kind of ingrained that you have to use every last thing. And not because you're like, yes, of course, like originally the thought was let's not waste anything. But now it's like part of the food culture and part of our, palate, which I think is really great. And I think, it has a sad and misogynistic beginning, Bengali food, especially Bengali vegetarian food, because so there's a very terrible tradition whereby Hindu widows who had lost their husband, they wouldn't be allowed to eat with the rest of the family. Like basically after their husbands died, they lost all their value in society. So they couldn't, like they were not allowed to eat at the same table as the rest of the household. They couldn't eat the same food. So they were left with the scraps to like fend for themselves. So they are credited with kind of making Bengali food good out of nothing. So they would like, the kind of things that I talked about, the scraps, the stir fry out of the scraps, or like making things with the seeds. Apparently that's where it kind of started and picked up from. So yeah, but it continues today. And your question about whether it's easier for me to be sustainable here or there, well, I have to admit that I have a staff member in my house who makes the meals. Like I don't actually cook that much at home. So I am fully immersed in the cooking experience here. I'm buying the food, I'm making it, the parts, I know what I'm wasting, I know what's going off. Like I'm not really involved in the same way in Bangladesh.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think
And
experience of a lot of students, right? Like you cook a lot when you're at uni, and then when you're at home, somebody else is doing the cooking, whether that's like your parent or whoever.
yeah.
So I think,
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm not too sure, but I'm from like a cultural perspective, I know that even the cook in our house will be, you know, using all the scraps sort of thing.
I wonder, like, it's quite, I don't know, it's, I guess, to compare, like, there is, especially kind of with us at Guest, and kind of you're about promoting kind of reducing waste, and I'm all about sustainable food. Like, obviously, it's something we're aware of to be using all these scraps, but it's interesting, like, that it, I would say, I don't know if you agree, it's more of, it is definitely more from like an environmental perspective than just like a default kind of cultural perspective. So it's interesting, like how kind of trying to use every last bit of everything is maybe seen in the UK as more of a like an environmental decision than just like something that's completely possible.
Part of culture, the food culture, exactly. And I guess that's where, like, it's only when you make something cool that it actually takes off. Like, that's something I truly believe. If you want something to take off, if you want people to get on board with something, you have to make it cool, or you have to make it, you know, tasty, something that some people aspire to. So like making it a default part of the culture is, I think, one of the biggest challenges, rather than just being kind of like from a preachy perspective, being like, oh, you should be more sustainable and thus use up everything. Like, rather, instead, if we were like, actually, it's so good, and now Jamie Oliver only cooks with, you know, carrot peels, then we'll see suddenly everybody wants to cook with carrot peels. Like, unfortunately, that's how humans function.
It's also interesting, I guess, kind of like I think now in like maybe online like vegan communities or whatever, like influencers that I see on Instagram, like the kind of thing is trying to make food out of like banana peels, or like bacon out of banana peels, and strange things like that, which I think, okay, not to call it strange, I haven't tried it, haven't heard it's super nice, but maybe it's great. It's interesting kind of like how in that way it might be slightly faddy when actually like it has the potential to just be like a usual
normal thing. Yeah. And fads are good, but most of them don't catch on, simply for the reason where people think that that's not for me. That's something that the vegan community is doing. That's not part of, you know, my lifestyle. But it shouldn't be like that. Things have to be mainstream, and normalized. This leek mixture is so good that I'm just eating it on its own.
Eating it as well.
That's a good sign, I guess. I'm sorry, I'm sort of holding everybody up. My bechamel hadn't really thickened, so I'm now like attempting to reboil my bechamel while chopping turnip.
So I've added, I had to put it into the pie dish, the pastry. So I've added the pastry to the oven for like a bit before, like without the filling, so it doesn't get soggy. I don't know if I'm doing it well, but this is what people do.
Yeah.
And I made some like indentations with the fork on the pastry. So I think I'm gonna leave it there for like 5-10 minutes.
See, Laura, you're such a pro. You know, like all these little things about indentations and.
You seem like a natural.
So Talia, are we just for the galette? I'm still gonna try and go with the galette, even though, okay, I have to show you my lack of circle. That is the best I could do.
No, I honestly think that will suit a galette like just fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think it'll be great. So what you need to do is put it onto a piece of baking paper on a baking sheet, because it will be easier to do it and then fill it.
The baking paper, because I don't want to use it. So can I just put a bit of butter on this? Is that fine?
Yeah. It might be a slight risk, but go for it. Also, they do, like, I have seen things, like, in even Marston's, you can buy, like, a reusable, in the big Marston's in Partick, you can buy those sheets you can put on baking sheets, reusable baking sheets that you can.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool, because I've been thinking, like, what can I do? Because sometimes you can't help it. You need to put foil, otherwise you're dead. But I don't want to most of the time.
In terms of talking about fads and like when things are cool, and kind of becoming far more popular, I was listening to something the other day that was talking about, it was a Guardian long reads article called Why We All Fell for Clean Eating, kind of talking about when clean eating was really trendy and how that was just like the thing everyone was into, and it like totally took the market by storm. And this article was showing all these facts where, like, in the years where clean eating was becoming cool, like vegetables like went up in sales, like huge amounts. Like far more people, like broccoli and beetroot, I think it was, like beetroot increased its sales like vastly, just because suddenly like clean eating, and like courgettes because of the whole spiralizing thing. Like all of that was happening. So it's just interesting. Like you're totally right. Like in terms of if things are cool, people do them, even if that's the only way you can get someone to want to eat a beetroot.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm putting my, Talia, should I go for it? I'm putting my mixture into the center of the, should I preheat my oven?
So, there's mine.
Nice.
Oh.
Looks really good. Lovely.
I'm gonna do it.
And also, Janina, yes, preheat your oven to 180.
The oven?
Yeah, preheat your oven.
Yeah, 180.
First,
I'm making 180. When in doubt, 180.
Yeah. Like I made that up. Like it's based on that.
Did you come up with this recipe yourself, Talia?
I did. I took inspiration from a few sources. I used like a generic bechamel recipe to get the quantities, and the pastry is inspired by a Mira soda recipe, because she's always my go-to. And you know, well, I guess the reason why I chose leek tart is because leeks are seasonal in January.
True.
So all of this is made with seasonal veg. I have all of my swede here cubed, ready to boil to make mash, but I'm going to do that while the pie is cooking. So it's no worries anyway. So for anybody watching this cook along who's tuned in this far into the finding out how the recipe works, if you do want to make swede mash, just boil your swede until it's soft and then add some oil and some salt or some butter and milk if you like it creamy, and mash it up and it'll be tasty. If you want a little side to go with your pie.
So should I wrap the sides that are hanging out on top of?
Yes, so what you want to do is leave a little gap around all of the edges where you put your filling in. You haven't done that. To be fair, I slightly got distracted. Just try and smoosh it in a bit.
Yeah, okay. Oh, running away.
Bechamel to thicken up. This is terrible.
Okay, well, mine is in the oven.
Well done, Laura. First to the oven. It should take 20 minutes.
I put it in the middle. Now what happens?
You want to fold the edges. Start with like a section maybe that big.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to fold each edge.
Yeah.
No, I wonder. Okay, hold on. If you hold on just a moment, I will do mine at the same time.
I'm ready.
But I need to put it on a baking tray first. Okay, so what I'm doing now, here I have my, this is like this
Perfect circle.
But I did have my like little guide thing, so okay, right. I'm gonna see if my bechamel is a decent consistency.
Oh, you haven't mixed the leeks yet. Oh.
I think it's looking okay, the bechamel. I think I'm gonna try and do like a few spoons of it. If this goes terribly wrong, you're gonna see it happen. Like
Live. It's happening on live TV. Looking good.
on top kind of thing. Because I fear that it's a bit runny to like mix by itself. Alternatives for bechamel, maybe tomorrow I'll make macaroni cheese. And that
Yes.
I haven't used it all. Okay, so basically now, here we are. I also haven't left like mega room around the edges, so I'll maybe push it in a little bit. Okay, so this is the exciting part and where it really like takes shape and always looks amazing.
Okay. I'm excited.
I say so confidently. Okay, so basically you take an edge, like one edge at a time, like just this much maybe, and fold it in.
Yeah.
And kind of press it like that. And it's like you're wrapping a present almost. Like then you just take the next edge, like to the next side and fold it up as well.
Okay.
And then you do that all the way around. That's why I think it won't matter too much that
the shape is a bit off. Yeah.
In a regular size, because then it will fold more up into the middle.
Oh, that looks great.
A bit strange. I feel like usually you would do it with more folds. Rather, like I think it looks maybe slightly pentagram like. But oh well. How's it going for you, Janaea?
Not bad actually, because mine is so ragged anyway that it's looking pretty plastic, as you said, which I guess is what we're going for here. So I have this tiny dough scrap, so I'm gonna make something out of it instead of wasting it.
Nice.
But I was gonna say that your oats. We have something in Bangladesh called masala oats. So, and a lot of people who are like on a healthy diet will eat masala oats for breakfast. So you would add, I'll send you a recipe for masala oats.
And I'll post it, if anyone is like watching this and wants to know, I'll post it on the event page.
Yeah.
Okay, right, I'm putting this in the oven. I'm doing it. It's going to take around 20 minutes, I think.
I won.
It looks so good.
I just really want to eat it. I'm like, can it be ready yet? I need to put the timer on.
How long did you say? 20 minutes?
30 minutes. I'm going to put 20 because mine has already been there for a bit.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do it for 20 and then check and see what.
Yeah.
I'm also going to boil the kettle now so I can make some turnip mash after this while that's cooking in the oven. That's the end of the cook-along technically. Cool, thank you. Like, Janaina, thanks for doing this. Laura, thank you so much for coming along.
That's fun. Goodbye.
Bye, thank you so much.
Bye, everyone. Enjoy your tart.